Susan. Welcome to Tea and Games. The tea today is something a little bit different from some of the ones I normally have in rotation. The tea today is novel teas, which I had just stumbled across. And it's a box that has like a packet of tea bags in it, and each tag on the tea bags has a different literary quote or quote about books. Sometimes they're like really well-known things that you've seen as memes, and sometimes they're things that I've never seen before, or quotes that just aren't particularly, they're about books but not by book people necessarily, like not by novelists or something. But it's kind of an extra bit of fun with the tea. You just never know quite what you're going to get. The flavor of the tea is very mild. I will say that this is not one that's going to really, where the flavor is really going to kick you in the seat of the pants, like some other teas that I have drunk on these videos. Last week was kind of a difficult week for us. Our eldest dog had a medical emergency, and she nearly died the evening before my birthday, and we were still faced with possibly the prospect that she wouldn't make it on my birthday. So it was a very kind of rough, emotional week, and she pulled through, and she's on a lot of meds now, and she has heart failure. So, I mean, there's like no happy ending to this. The happy ending right now is that she is up and she is perky and she is running around the house and wagging her tail. But she does have a bad valve and heart issues that will probably get her in the sense that it's going to shorten her lifespan. But she's happy, she's perky, she's comfortable, she's breathing easily, which the breathing is what alerted us to the problem that there was something wrong, is that she quite rapidly went into respiratory distress. So, we've just been kind of wrecked around here. And you might say, well, you know, I mean, there are games for when you are wrecked, like really simple games where you don't need to use your brain at all. And we probably should have done that. But I had already just like stacked up a bunch of games like fall games and spooky season games on the far end of the dining room table there. And I just thought, and one of those games was a game that's on our Unplayed Games Shelf. So I just thought, I really want to play this game. So it's like, I'm tired, but I'm going to play it. Rodney Smith did a how to play video for Mariposas, and I will link that in the description below because he can tell you far more about the game than I can. What I can mostly tell you about the game is that we loved it. We absolutely, totally loved it. It's a very beautiful game. Kind of a quiet, relaxing game, which is exactly what we needed this weekend. Although, you know, I mean, not everything we played could be considered quiet and relaxing. But let me give you a quick look at what's in the box. Nice rule book, which we referred to when we couldn't remember what we were supposed to be doing. It's like the tutorial link below is very, very good, but it's like the kind of week we had. At some point we're looking at this and we're going like, was I supposed to have done, no, yeah, wasn't I supposed to have done that on my last turn? So, you know, there were things that it was not actually like the best playthrough for this game, but at the same time, we didn't like really mess things up, surprisingly enough, which tells you that this game it's pretty user-friendly, you might say. It's a beautiful game. Absolutely, positively beautiful. And if you like nature and butterfly gardens and butterflies and native plants, or you know someone who does, this is a really nice game for that. See? Pretty board. Very pretty board. Now, down here at the bottom of the board, this is kind of interesting the way this works. You can see that there are paths all through here that you can move from hex to hex. But the thing is, this is your starting location. It is also your ending location. And there's nothing to say at what point you start heading back home. That's one of the decisions that you have to make in the game is you send your butterflies out. There are, well, there's summer and fall. You can see right here, there's also a spring slot. There are cards which have seasonal goals. You have 3 seasons. And I might add, there's like a deck of cards for each season. So that means when you deal out 1 card for each season for the seasonal goals and combination of seasonal goals are not going to be the same in every game. So that adds a little bit of variability. This track along here is your points track. Am I pointing to the right thing? Yes, I am. Surprise, surprise. You can hatch out new butterflies along the way. If you get your butterflies up to 4, or even better, a double 4, then if you want to, you can start heading them back home. But there are still seasonal goals for that 3rd season. So, you know, and those goals are sort of opposed to sending your butterflies back home, because they'll say the goals will be something like, you know, butterflies that are east or south of Atlanta or something like that, or butterflies that are on the orange hexes but are east of whatever, so, or west of whatever and on orange squares, which is a very specific thing. So you're getting these goals seasonally, but at the same time, you're trying to upgrade your butterflies as they migrate around. You're picking up flowers, and those flowers are what you turn in order to hatch out new butterflies or get more butterflies of a higher level. And it's a really nifty kind of mechanic, but at some point, you got to bring your butterflies back home. I did really, really well in upgrading my butterflies and getting those level 4 butterflies. But then when I got to fall, I only was drawing like cards that had like 4 and 5 movement on them. Although you can string some of those ones together. I only had a couple of those, so I was not able. And each season is longer in terms of the number of cards you play. You play 4 cards in spring, 5 cards in summer, and 6 cards in fall. So that does give you more cards to play to start bringing your butterflies back. But at the beginning of fall, I was still upgrading butterflies, trying to get like that extra thing, because it turned out that the fall thing had a really nice bonus point for a 3 to 4 upgrade. And so I did that a couple of times when I should have just taken the 4s that I already had and headed them home. But yeah, you're just kind of free to meander all over this board during the course of play and try to make the seasonal goals by where your butterflies are positioned. And there are certain spaces on the board where you can hatch out new ones. You can't just do it at any time. And picking up flowers along the way. The cities that are on here are way stations, and you get extra stuff for that. Like, there are cards that are laid out on this way station board, and these correspond to little tokens that are on the way station, and you can collect those. And if you get like the full set of each color, of any color, then you get like a bonus card here at the end that will give you extra stuff. So that's a nifty little thing there. We didn't do real well on that. We really didn't. We did really well on hitting way stations, but somehow or other, Robert right there at the end of the game, near the end of the game, he got all of the greens. And so he was able to get 1 extra butterfly. That was his bonus for that. But I didn't do very well on that. It's like the way stations that I hit where it's like, how could we possibly randomize what you get even more than possible? You know, it's like everything I got, it's like, okay, that doesn't go with anything, and that doesn't go with anything. And, oh, look, I got 2 of that, but I never got any more. It's like, But the cards are pretty simple. These are some of your seasonal goal cards like this. And these are some of your bonus things like Game 2 way station cards. And these are what you get at the end of the way station. So this one, you could gain 2 way station cards of your choice, which meant that if you had completed one and you had 2 of another, then you could complete a second one. This one just straight up gives you points at the end of the game. Take an extra turn at the end of fall. This gives you an extra butterfly, I think. So it's like, there's nifty stuff. He got an extra butterfly on the home square. Yeah, this is the one Robert got last time. So yeah, there are extra things. The flower tokens correspond to, oh, I'm not looking at the flower tokens here. This came with its own bit boxes. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bit boxes, one for each type of flower. So, and nothing you had to put together or anything. So I thought that was kind of nifty. And here is some of the bits. Let me hold it up to the camera rather than the screen. I'm dropping flowers, scattering flowers as I go. So this is a lovely game, and it was a lot of fun, and it was kind of relaxing, and there were some interesting choices to make during the game. There's also a pretty little flower die that you roll to get an extra flower thing. But yeah, we like this. We like this a lot. We intended to play it again. We played it on Saturday, and we intended to play it again. But I don't know. It just, the week just all caught up with us, or was still catching up with us on Sunday, and we just kind of crashed. Here are the pretty little butterfly tokens and colors. This will play up to 5, I think. Let's see, white, gold, pink, green, blue. Yes, it plays up to 5, so that's like a really nice number for a family group. Here are your butterfly cards. Well, I've got a bunch of different cards here. Those are all of the cards, including the way station cards. It's all pretty, it's like, it's actually, gameplay is fairly simple, but the choices you make are kind of tricky. Like, it's not always clear how you can optimize your play. But at the same time, this is not really a tense, brain-breaking game, because this is just, it's so pretty and relaxing. I really recommend this. It is by Elizabeth Hargrave, who also made Wingspan. This is, I think, simpler than Wingspan, though I would not call it a super easy game. It does have some complexity to the mechanics, but this might be an entry-level game. It would be worth giving it a shot, particularly for someone who has an interest in native plants and natural history. Now, I had intended to get into Halloween games, because, you see, that game got played. See, here, I'm in Texas, and Mariposas is technically kind of a seasonal game for us, or it could be, because the monarchs migrate through here in both spring and fall. So this could be a spring game and a fall game. But I hadn't actually intended to do fall games. I had them stacked up on the table, and then I decided, oh, I'm just not feeling it, because we're no longer above 100, but the temperatures have been over 90. So it's just, I'm not feeling the fall. Today, it's rainy, and we've got a cool front that's moved in, so temperatures should drop into the 70s, which is like our version of fall. So I may hit more fall games next weekend if we can hang on to the cool-ish weather long enough. And I had a whole bunch of spooky season games lined up. The only thing we got to is we played some Gloom this weekend. And you might think that this is a counterintuitive choice for, you know, I mean, we don't play this just like totally on spooky season. We play Gloom all the time. And that's the same thing with Silver. We play the Silver series with its inconspicuous werewolves. We play it year-round. But Silver requires you to remember what you're doing from one moment to another. And it's just like after the events of the week, I just kind of felt like I'm just going to stare at those cards, and it's like I'm not going to remember what any of my face-down cards are, and neither is Robert, and the game is just going to be a complete mess. But Gloom, yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive, because this game is like morbid, dark humor, but it's kind of that whole Addams Family Gothic kind of thing. We've got the big box of Gloom because we had so many expansions. Okay, this is the original box, which I've got in here for the original Gloom. But what we played is the Gloom that we got last year that we didn't like. We got the new Gloom, which is gloomier. Yeah, I got that box still here too. Gloomier, A Night at Hemlock Hall. So gloomier is, unlike the other standalone versions of Gloom, the other standalone versions of Gloom tend to be thematically different we also have Cthulhu Gloom, and there are Game of Thrones Gloom and Space Gloom and Fairy Tale Gloom and things like that. But Gloomier is a standalone game that is basically got the artwork and the same kind of stuff on the cards that the base game does. But the thing is, our first playthrough of it was really rough last fall, and I thought, oh, there's something wrong with this game. And the only thing I can think of is that on that first play, we just didn't shuffle the cards well enough, because the game seemed horribly unbalanced, and we just had a really difficult and not terribly happy time playing it. Although this game is not about having a happy time. Well, I mean, the players have a happy time, but the family members, your whole goal of this game is to you select your family or your family members, and you then try to make them as miserable as possible by inflicting things on them, like they brawled over brandy for -20 or 10, or they, let's see, some of these cards, or they ate a bad biscuit, or they were in peril in the pantry, or shared a sad story. But there are also happy cards, like they enjoyed 11s, or they uncovered a clue, or cuddled with cats. And the idea is that you're trying to make them as miserable as possible, and then you play a death card on them and kill them off for the amount of negative points that they've got. The whole idea is the most negative points wins. So it's like this one is call the wrong bluff, and you will sometimes get extra points if you have a magnifying glass icon or some other kind of icon on there. But it's a storytelling game because they all have these things on them. They cuddled with cats, or passed out in the parlor, or had too much marmalade, or they danced with a duchess, or eavesdropped on an enemy, or thwarted a thief. And so as you play the cards, the happy cards on your opponents, and you play the bad cards on your own family members that are laid out in front of you, then you just you weave this truly bizarre story of misfortune. And it's a lot of fun. Now, there are certain things about A Night at Hemlock Hall that are different from the base game, which is actually kind of good. It's kind of a condensed, consolidated base Gloom, because the base Gloom game, you have different families and everybody chooses a family to play. But in this one, it's all one family, lots and lots of people in this family, and you choose 4 family members. Regular game, it's 5. So yeah, in most Gloom games, you're going to be playing with your 5 family members, but this one only 4. And when all the family members are killed off by someone around the table, the game instantly ends. And then you tally up your points, but only for the dead people. However, there is a zombie expansion which will allow you to get the points off of undead people. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. This does not have the zombie expansion or the Unhappy Homes expansion, but, and there's like a couple of different expansions this doesn't have, but it does come with 2. It comes with, on the back side of your family member cards, it has, some of the family member cards has Unwelcome Guest, which is one of the expansions. And some of the unwelcome guests will actually be like the flip side of the character that is on the regular card. And you play unwelcome guests like a regular family member, but they follow. They go from person to person depending upon the icons. Like if whoever has the most of a certain kind of icon. It also, on the back side of those family member cards, has some stories. Stories always have green text. And green is the color of the stories. And you can claim story cards as an action, and they will give you special bonuses and good abilities in the gameplay. But the way this is done, they tell you to choose your people first, and then from the unchosen characters, you may choose, if you wish, to play some unwelcome guest, one of the unwelcome guests, or two of them, or one or two stories. But the thing about it is, if you're playing with the full number of people, there aren't going to be any characters cards left over for you to choose from. And if you choose certain character cards, then there's not going to be unwelcome guests left or stories left. Like you could actually, if you're playing with a lot of people, you could actually, when you turn over the last few cards to see what stories and unwelcome guests that you might have, you might not actually get two of any of them if you really wanted to play with stories or unwelcome guests. So that's something to keep in mind. The way we did it this time is we pulled one random story and unwelcome guest before we did our characters. So that way we would be sure that we would have some. But there was only two of us playing, so that wasn't really a thing. But I just kind of think that that's maybe a better way to do it if you definitely want to play with expansions and you want to have like a full, you're not going to be like shuffling 4 cards or something to pull out something random. I would rather have like the full deck of unwelcome guests and stories to be shuffled and then pulling one at random, because you have a larger selection to choose from for what they could turn out to be. But we played that and we had a lot of fun playing it. And you might say, well, it's kind of dark. But it wasn't too dark for us, even considering the circumstances. And I wanted to get another play in of it because it didn't play well when we played it the first time last time. And I guess we just didn't shuffle the cards well enough because it played perfectly this time. But if you wanted to try Gloom with a couple of expansions, this is base game Gloom, one family. You choose family members. You've got a little bit of unwelcome guests, a little bit of story cards. So, I mean, it's kind of Gloom light in that sense, if you're not like, but it is compatible with all of the other expansions and stuff. And the other thing we played is we played Cthulhu Gloom, since we were doing the Gloom thing. And since it is Halloween and Cthulhu stuff is kind of, you know, kind of seasonally spooky. In this one, you do have families. These cards are very slippy. And the reason why the cards are transparent is because when you lay things on top of them, then you may cover up effects or cover up points, like you play a plus card on somebody and you're trying to cover up those minus points that they've got on their card. But it also means that when you cover up cards, certain effects will change. Yeah, I always play the Marshes from Innsmouth. Oh, but there is a curious curator. I actually got a card where she stole something from a museum this time, which was really, really appropriate considering that it was a curator card. But yes, we have the Whately family here. And here's Herbert West Reanimator. And some more there. And let's see. Oh, yes. Who could forget Randolph Carter? And there are some story cards here. Green text, so you can play story cards in this Gloom as well. No unwelcome guest in this Gloom, which is kind of surprising. You would think there'd be a lot of unwelcome guests with Cthulhu. But yeah, you've got 4 families, so that means you can play a total of 4 players. It's fun. Gameplay is basically the same way as any version of Gloom. It's just that it's Cthulhu flavored. Cthulhu themed. There is an expansion for it, but we don't have the expansion. I'm not even sure if the expansion is in print, but we've got lots of expansions for regular Gloom, which could be rolled into Night at Hemlock Hall Gloom. But yeah, we did some Glooms. It seemed like an appropriate start for spooky season, though it's not really a spooky game. It's just mostly kind of disturbingly murdery. And we will probably get into more spooky season Gloom, more spooky season games, and more fall games in future weekends, particularly since it looks as if it might actually be getting like sort of kind of almost fall, what passes for fall here in Texas. I've got a tower of silver in the back, on the back end of the table there, topped off with Tides of Madness. So we're probably going to play those next weekend. And I do have some fall games. I realize most people do their videos and they have like fall games video and they have like spooky season video, and we just haven't been having fall and there was other stuff going on. So fall and spooky are going to be all jumbled up. At least I think they are. I have no idea. To some extent, the games that I pick for a weekend kind of depends upon my mood at the time. Although Robert had pulled Mariposas. He really wanted to play that. He said he thought it looked really good. From the games that I had, like for Unplayed Games, that was kind of top of his list after the other ones that we've played. So I really kind of wanted to get to that this weekend, even though this weekend was just, we still felt kind of wrecked. I mean, the dog feels great. She's bouncing all over the place, but Robert and I are going like, oh, I'm so tired. But yeah, so we had like a really interesting week, and we played, dropped the pen. It wasn't attached. And it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't drop something or fumble something. And now I've got a knot in that. Okay, that's good. Whatever. But it's been fun sitting around the table chatting with y'all. And we will pull out some spooky stuff and some pretty fall games in the coming weeks. And I will see you next time around the table. Bye.